I am here in studio with Plymouth County District Attorney Tim Cruz. Not our usual morning slot, but sometimes I like to mix it up, get you in here for a little bit longer during our noon newscast so we get a different audience and we get a little bit more time to talk. And it is wrapping up at the end of the year, and I would love to go over a few things with you that have been programs that we've done this year. So, again, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I know getting down to the nitty-gritty, your office, of course, the prosecutor for Plymouth County. So we always have to talk about homicides and overdoses and what the numbers look like. What does the data show?
Right. Yeah, so obviously we handle thousands of criminal cases every year in Brockton, Plymouth, Hingham, and Wareham, and the Superior Court, Brockton, and Plymouth. But, unfortunately this year so far we've had 12 homicides throughout Plymouth County. The state police were assigned to the DA's office, work with the local police in order to come and effectuate a result, clearing the case and making sure that somebody gets arrested. So this year, 7 of those homicides are in Brockton. 2 of them are at the Old Colony Correctional and the Mass Treatment Center down in Bridgewater. The other ones are throughout our county. The other 4 are throughout our county. The good news is that the state police, working with the local police, have cleared all 12 cases. So the cases, as they move forward now through the criminal justice system, we'll make sure that the victims, have their day in court, their families have their day in court, figure out the situation that they're going forward with, and make sure that we can get justice for the community.
And what are those numbers compared to last year? Are they up a little bit, down a little bit?
Yeah, the homicide numbers were up a little bit from last year. But they're in the same vicinity, and I believe it's over a 5-year time period that our numbers are down. So that's good. It's not like it used to be, unfortunately, but still, one homicide's one too many, and it creates damage throughout the community.
Now, overdoses, and of course this ties into the whole drug culture, which has its tributaries out into many other issues in the district. Let's talk about the overdose numbers. I believe for Plymouth County, those numbers are down.
The Plymouth County numbers are down, and they've actually been down and going down for the last 5 years, excluding the year of COVID, when Plymouth County Outreach couldn't go to homes and bring services with a recovery coach and with a plainclothes police officer. But our numbers are down this year. As of today, we have 91 fatal overdoses. There are suspected that, those are the ones, that the fatal ones that my office responds to. So far, we've had 102 overdoses in 2023. This is a difficult time. The holiday time is always going to be a difficult time, I think, for people. So I'm hoping, having my fingers crossed, that the numbers will continue to stay flat where they are right now. But, you never know what's going to happen. It's good that, been able to work together here in our community for a long time. A lot of really good groups and agencies have been able to drive those numbers down. I think, some towns this year didn't report any fatal overdoses. So Abington, Bridgewater, Mattapoisett, Plimpton, Rochester, and West Bridgewater did not have any fatal overdoses this year, which is great. That's good news to report. But like I said, one overdose is too many, and the same thing with the homicides. It affects the community. So we have to work together and make sure we can drive these numbers down.
Now, when you talk about Plymouth County Outreach, that's something that we know because it's kind of inside baseball.
Right.
We've talked about it. But for people that are listening, it's a unique program starting here in Plymouth County that I know that other areas across the country have started to ask about the program or even start to institute their own programs like that. How does that work?
Yeah, it came out of the law enforcement subdivision of our Plymouth County Drug Abuse Task Force that myself and Sheriff McDonald put together back in 2015 when we saw our overdoses, our fatal overdoses, double in a year. So what can we get together? We brought people together. One division, one branch of the task force was law enforcement. And from law enforcement, it was put together the PCO, Plymouth County Outreach. And what that means is we have an MOU between all 27 communities in Plymouth County and those police chiefs. If there's a non-fatal in Brockton, say, but the person's from Plymouth, Brockton will notify Plymouth, and within 12 to 24 hours, there will be a plainclothes police officer as well as a trainer coming out there trying to help individuals and bring information. A huge problem with overdoses remains the stigma that families go through, that people go through. They don't want to deal with the issues. And from there, what we've seen is that PCO, incredibly effective, and our numbers went down until COVID happened. But after COVID, when the police officers could go back and the treatment people could go back, our numbers go down again. So it's very effective. It works very well, I think. And I commend all of our police chiefs for getting on board with it and staying on board with it.
It's interesting when you say that because you think if somebody has had experience with drugs and has a non-fatal overdose and they come home and they're okay, if they don't have something like this Plymouth County Outreach, how are they expected to just, okay, I'm safe now, I'm going to turn my life around? where do they turn? Unless, I think that's almost impossible to do unless they have some kind of help or guidance or resources.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the other problem from there is that what our police officers were finding out when they were showing up at non-fatals, when they show in, or even fatals, when they went into, say, if it was a home or an apartment, whatever, they'd see toys, they'd see kids' shoes. So now what's going on? Now you have small children who are watching their loved ones overdosing and potentially passing away. So therefore, these kids are what known as drug-endangered children. How do you help drug-endangered children so you can stop these cycles of drug use, getting drug treatment? How do we help the people in our community? And by doing this, I think it's been very helpful because now we've been able to go to the schools, dealing with adverse childhood experiences, trying to help the kids as we go forward, and trying to keep them out. My goal all along is really to keep kids out of the criminal justice system, and to me, that's criminal justice reform.
Absolutely. You've got violence, you've got drug abuse, you've got neglect, all those things. If kids deal with it, it's like it's almost a lost cause unless they get somebody else or organization to intervene and stop them from heading right on that path back to the criminal courts. I know ACEs has been a very adverse childhood experiences, and it's interesting that the way that program has worked, as I remember it, is if there's been some traumatic or very upsetting episode at home, the school can be alerted, not maybe going into specifics saying, this child has XYZ experience, handle with care today.
Handle with Care is a program that was developed, and like I said, we took bits and pieces of other programs, and this is 20 years ago. We were watching kids who were watching domestic violence or violence in their homes, the trauma that they suffered. And what we did, because the program that we had for that was very successful, when we were dealing with the opioid overdose, we took the same program. So how do you help drug-endangered children who are potentially going to have a number of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences? How do you train the trainers? How do you train school teachers to focus on the children so that they're going to stop these cycles that they're watching, that they're seeing? So all these things, on all these moving parts that we have in our office on the preventative end, all are kind of working hand in hand. And I think that it's been effective. There's always challenges, as we go forward with this stuff. But I think it's been effective. And I think we've seen our numbers go down as a result of that. Our numbers are down significantly across the board, our crime numbers. And I think that's important. I think this may be a small piece to deal with it.
Now, one of my favorite topics, because I love animals, the comfort dogs. And I remember when you got one of the first dogs, I think it was Opry, in Hingham. What a success that's been. What a difference that these dogs have made in the communities if people aren't familiar with them. Tell me a little bit about them.
And I'll tell you, and once again, that's the next piece of the puzzle. Because when COVID came and kids weren't going to school anymore, kids were socially isolated from their friends. I'm talking babies, first grade, second grade. Some kids who aren't getting enough to eat. So there were all sorts of mental health issues after COVID and ongoing right now from kids who really haven't been able to come back from that. So when Opry started, we get a call from the Hingham police asking us if we could fund monies for a comfort dog, a dog that could be brought to the Hingham public schools and try to help the kids cope with the challenges that they face. And we gave the money for that, and it's taken off like you read about. It's unbelievable. So now we've gotten grants over the years, the last couple of years. And we have, as we sit here right now, I think it's 22 comfort dogs throughout Plymouth County. Our goal is certainly to get a dog in every town, but also I want to get dogs into the Boys and Girls Clubs, into the Ys. We have a Boys and Girls Club dog here in Marshfield. Desi's the name of the dog that's here. And it's real. When you talk to the police officers, and the difference that a dog makes, bringing them in, because everybody loves dogs. And it doesn't matter if you're in a clique at school, if you're in a situation, maybe you're an athlete, maybe you're in theater, maybe you're in band, whatever it is. Everybody loves the dogs. And the dogs just bring people's blood pressure down. And it makes it a much more better, cooler sort of place for the people to go to. And I just think it makes such a difference. And now as we've gotten grants and we go forward, we now provide the dogs, the training, the health care. We provide the kit for the cruisers to keep them cool in the summer and warm in the winter. And it's ongoing training for these dogs. And now they're trying to be crisis awareness dogs. These dogs don't deal with drugs. They don't deal with bodies. They're not trained for that.
They're all about love.
They are. They really are. And the children that have an opportunity, whether or not it's going to be an elementary school or even a high school, Opry goes to graduations at Hingham, and they all want to see the dog. So now, I think it's been very effective. We've got a 4-year grant right now that we're trying to work with and get more dogs and take the next step. We're also involved with Bridgewater State University, Dr. Leslie Sattler, who's putting together really requirements for us. How is it working? Because how do you know? And she's done great, and the numbers have shown us that it's working throughout our county. It's a very positive thing. I've heard nothing negative about it, and I think it's something that really is a cherry on top of the overall things that we're trying to do. And where is this going to lead us and take us in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? There's always a next step. That's the way I look at it. There's always a next step, and what's the next problem coming down the road?
And something you brought up earlier, we talked about, one of the big topics, especially during the last couple of years, during elections, et cetera, has been criminal justice reform. I think a lot of people are not aware about all these. To me, it looks like a lot of people connected with the local police departments and stories we cover in your office, the frontline social workers with all these programs. And don't you think that all these contributions to trying to cool everybody down, get them in the right program, that's real criminal justice reform, not just firing cops?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we are not your grandparents' DA's office. When I started out 40 years ago, we didn't have anything like this. We had a diversion program, which of course we still have, and it's very effective for young kids with no prior record. But we didn't have stuff like this. And now people ask me, well, why are you doing this stuff? And quite honestly, the reason why we're doing it is because other people aren't. And I think it's a necessary step. And as I go forward now, this summer, I become president of the National DAs Association. What I'm trying to bring is what we're doing in Plymouth County to the other DAs across America, talking about the communities that really are in crisis and they're looking for help. And if somebody else is not stepping up, whether it be legislature, executive people, whoever it is, if they're not stepping up, we can step up. It can be done. We can get grants. We can work together. We can drive our numbers down. We can keep people safe. And I think we've been very effective that way. And the DAs that I know from across America, they're all like us. They all understand where we're going forward. So we all share information and what can we do next in order to try to get in front of these things, and also on back and in the middle.
What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge coming up in this coming year, besides everything else you folks already do?
I think there's so many challenges, because I'm not even talking about really our mission of prosecuting cases, our mission of getting justice for victims, our mission of making sure that people without a voice have a voice, whether they be children, whether they be seniors. That's our mission, that's our goal. And I try to keep the people in my office focused on that is what we need to do, that we need to be at our best when people are seeing some of the worst things in their life and they're not used to the system. How can you be at your best when somebody's walking into something that they watch TV, they don't know what they're not involved with criminal justice, and that people are really impressed, I think, when they see what we're doing on that front end. And then they watch the lawyers and the victim witness advocates and even admins and IT and the people that work in the office, what a well-oiled machine it really is. And you see these incredibly difficult and challenging cases that we're going to continue to face, because we have lots of issues and interpretations that I don't always agree with from either our court system or the way they come from the legislature. Being heard, I think, is the challenge. And what can we do to be heard regarding the laws that we need to have to keep us safer? And I work with, I'm on the Mass DAs Association. I've been president 4 times in the past. And now working with our current president, Worcester DA Joe Early, going up to Boston and once again stressing the legislative issues that need to be looked at so we can effectively do our job and not go into a fight with a one hand tied behind our back. We are not looking to convict people for the sake of convictions. We are looking to keep people safe, and we're looking to make sure we can do our job as best as we can, and that's always a challenge.
If anybody's listening and has questions about your programs, or they need help or want to find out, because I know, again, as you mentioned, you've got many different outlets to help people. What's the best way of getting in contact with your office?
Well, you can always call our office if you have an emergency, call the police 911, but you can always call our office. We always have an assistant DA on call, 508-584-8120. If you want to learn more about our office, go on PlymouthDA.com. We're just scratching the top of the surface of what we do here. And I think when people have an opportunity to see what we're doing and understand the challenges that are out there and how great that the people in our office and local agencies working with us are doing, I think they'll be impressed.
That's great. That's Plymouth County District Attorney Tim Cruz. I just want to mention you made a commitment when you first took this office. I think it was 2001.
Yes.
That you would come on with me a couple times a month, and you've been really good about that. So we appreciate that. Again, this interview is going to get up online. Again, that's Plymouth County District Attorney Tim Cruz.